Hey guys, I'm Fuller.
I'm Jonah.
This is this week's episode of Off the Line. We're going to cover some transfer stuff that we thought was pretty interesting. Got quite a bit to cover in the Premier League with 2 games in the past 7 days. The USMNT will be after that. Going to talk about Berhalter's camp and not necessarily the results, but just going forward, what it means for the US. And then we'll round things out with our MLS previews. So first, just to get the transfer stuff out of the way, I was really impressed with Youri Tielemans moving to Leicester City. If you've played FIFA since like FIFA 13, you know who this kid is. One of the smartest center mids I think in Europe right now. I think he's 22.
So composed for his age.
He can play literally anywhere in the midfield. He can play that defensive mid role, deep line playmaker, box to box. He can sit in that 10 role. He's just so good, and he's got a hell of a shot. He can run for days. Physically, he's still growing. I wouldn't say he's still growing as a 22-year-old, but he's still growing out in terms of muscle wise. But he's very hard to dispossess. I very much like that signing for Leicester, especially when you consider Wilfred Ndidi, who I think is one of the better midfielders in the Premier League. But Mendy, his first name escapes me. I don't think Mendy is as good as he could be for Leicester. So I think having Tielemans and Ndidi and then James Maddison sitting right in front of him, I think that could be a nice little midfield combo, honestly, because James Maddison has also been one of the revelations, I guess, for Leicester this season with the departure of Riyad Mahrez. So I'm really excited to see what their midfield's going to do.
I haven't read too much into what the falling out was with him and Monaco's new coach / former coach.
Yardim.
Yeah, Javier Yardim. But my question only to that would be does that concern you to see that he's had a falling out with a coach of that stature? And I don't think he moved to a club of that stature, and I don't think he's moving to a club that is
very
that
much
bad.
A sideways move.
But how much does this remind you of the Renato Sanchez move, where he moved to a big club? I know he didn't move to a club of Bayern size, but he moved to Monaco, and it maybe didn't work out, and now he's moving to a not top 6 Premier League team. Is there any parallels in that, and do you think that it'll obviously you think it'll go over better than Sanchez's loan move did?
I think it will.
This was a loan move, right?
Yeah, it was a loan move. Renato, there had been a lot of questions about Renato Sanchez before he made that switch to Swansea last year, because he never really broke into that Bayern first team, which is kind of funny because now he plays for them pretty regularly. But Tielemans, I think you're right. He fell out with Yardim. Sanchez didn't fall out with anybody in Bayern. He just wanted more playing time, which I think is a crucial difference there. But I think Youri Tielemans doesn't want to play in Monaco, doesn't want to play for Yardim, wants to get in one of the top leagues. And Monaco, great team in theory. Sitting 19th in Ligue 1 right now. And if you already know that you're having a manager come in who you probably have beef with, or you had beef with before, it's not going to end well. The whole Monaco situation, very, very weird.
Yeah.
For not years, the last 6-7 years, it's been a talent factory. And they sold off all their good players this time and just couldn't really bring anyone in to fix it.
Right.
But who is your transfer?
I know it's a bit of a homer pick, but I think that Gonzalo Higuain being brought into Chelsea could potentially be the difference. The past 2 months probably I've been talking about how I haven't seen anything from Chelsea that would make me think that they're going to be able to edge United, or at some points it looks like it's been Arsenal as well. I just haven't been confident in them being able to stay in that 4th position. And I think Gonzalo Higuain easily could be the difference. I'm seeing people talking about how, he definitely is the difference after his performance this past weekend. There were 2 games this past week, so
he didn't play in the first, or he played minimal in the Bournemouth game, yeah.
But we got to keep in mind that this is a Huddersfield team that I don't watch a lot of the Championship, but a lot of people say they wouldn't even be able to make it into the playoffs in the Championship. So we got to keep in mind the quality of opposition that he was facing. But you saw him do your stereotypical things that you knew that you wanted to see from him, that you expected to see from him, making smart runs into the box, and literally one-touch finishes. His first one was off a smart run, one-touch finish, top corner, and the second one, his second goal was a goal I don't expect us to see a lot of. It was outside of the box, curving into the top corner. He's not a long-range shooter. I think the first goal is much more indicative of
what we're going to see.
Yeah. But not only did we see him link up with Eden Hazard really well, we also saw him linking up with Jorginho, and you don't see Jorginho make a lot of forward passes. A lot of them are more diagonal or sideways. So if that's been a big criticism of Jorginho this season, is the joke is like anybody could go in and play his role because all he's doing is receiving the ball and passing it to the right or the left, 5 or 10 yards either way. So if we can pull more out of Jorginho, I think that he winds not only somebody that's going to score us goals, but we're going to see Eden Hazard playing better. We're going to see Jorginho playing better. So it's really going to get the best out of the squad if all goes well. So that could, I'm definitely not saying it's going to be a success, but if it does go over well, that could be huge for Chelsea. I think that could be the difference in them making Champions League next season.
So a lot of goings on in the Premier League this past week. City dropped points at Newcastle, but beat the brakes off Arsenal yesterday. It's just kind of confusing for me watching City because, I mean, no disrespect to Newcastle, but Newcastle, they're one of the bottom feeders of the league this year. And they just come up with a result against City that, I mean, every Liverpool fan that I know is like so excited about that. I don't know. City are just really confusing me this year.
Yeah, nobody's talking about it. This criticism is more being leveraged on Chelsea, and that's just by nature of what their manager is saying in press conferences. But I wonder sometimes if Pep is like having difficulty making these players focus on a game-to-game, on a week-to-week basis in the Premier League like he was able to last season. I don't ever like to say that players are unmotivated, but I'm wondering, not necessarily motivated, but if he's having trouble, like I said, just keeping focused on the task at hand. I think they might have one or two eyes on the Champions League.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
So I think that could be playing a part in it. But it's interesting, the one big time that Manchester City gave Liverpool an opportunity to capitalize on. I think Liverpool only walked out with a draw that game.
Leicester. We'll get to that.
So yeah, I think the title race, especially with Tottenham creeping out these wins,
I know.
when nobody expected them to, I think it's proving to be just as interesting as people have predicted.
Absolutely. Moving on to Liverpool. So they need a win today against West Ham. They're probably playing right now. But they dropped points against Leicester. That was kind of what you were talking about. City lose to Newcastle, and Liverpool, if they beat Leicester, they go 7 points at the top. That's a 3-game lead. That's not done and dusted per se, but it's very hard to come back from. Do you think Liverpool, one, are going to win today? And two, do you think Liverpool are going to be able to close it out down this stretch? Because I'd say the February to March stretch is where champions are made.
Right.
That's when the that's when the Champions League picks up. You got all the Carabao and FA Cup fixtures, and then you have United, for example, they're playing 10 games over 28 days in February. That's grueling, man. That's almost every 3 days there's a game.
I think that Liverpool. The quick answer is yes. I think they'll win today. I think West Ham they've put in good performances this year, but they're
not going to be Liverpool.
Incredibly inconsistent.
The last 4 times Liverpool played West Ham, they scored 4.
Yeah. Right.
Sabermetric of the day.
So yeah, I think that they'll win today, and I still think that they're favorite. Well, not favorites, but I still think they're going to win the title, just because of the gap that they have. But I was actually thinking about this earlier today. It's kind of interesting in the sense that I still feel like Manchester City is the best team in the Premier League. It's very bizarre that the best team in the Premier League has been chasing Liverpool, and that's not a knock on Liverpool. Liverpool's an incredible team. It's insane what Jurgen Klopp. Everybody talks about how amazing Jurgen Klopp is, and I still feel like he doesn't get the credit.
Yeah.
He's still not mentioned in the same breath as a Pep Guardiola. So I think I think that Liverpool's an incredible team, but I still feel like Manchester City has kind of been the best team. Has kind of been chasing the title this year, and I think that Liverpool have gotten them in a position where it's theirs to lose. But I don't think that they will. I think that they'll follow through with it.
I do want to add to that. I was looking at just Instagram last night after the Super Bowl, and so I hate Boston sports. Like, if you probably have not picked up on. And Men in Blazers, they're just kind of memeing Liverpool to the title, and that just kind of seems to be the trend. With everyone else, Liverpool's gonna win. Liverpool's got it wrapped up already, and I just think we're heading towards a spectacular Liverpool downfall. I think we're gonna have another slip or something. Just the way this is being built up, dude. I just don't like.
And also, one good news just this past week, it's come out that Joe Gomez is gonna need surgery. Which, damn, he got injured 5 weeks ago. If he was going to need surgery, you would have thought they would have done it then. He was supposed to be back here in 2 weeks, and now he's just announced that he's going in for surgery. So we don't even know when they're going to be getting Joe Gomez back. So there's definitely some wrinkles. It's not going to be a smooth ride. I just think that with the points they've accrued and the lack of interest that Manchester City has shown in some of their games, I don't think City's going to go unbeaten the rest of the season. So you just have to wonder
who's going to lose,
who's going to drop more points exactly. And I just think that Liverpool would have to drop too many points for City to catch up.
So speaking of dropping points, United played Burnley on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. 2-2 tie. Burnley go up 2-0. United come back, score 2 goals last 4 minutes of the game. A lot of people, because of that, I think I wouldn't say you were one of them, but going into the Leicester game, there was this air that hey, United are probably going to lose this game because Leicester just held Liverpool to a 1-1. United went 2-2 at Burnley. Leicester's going to pull this out, which didn't happen. United score off the back of a great Pogba ball to Rashford. Now we're up in 5th place. Train's kind of starting to slowly move after a month of being in 6th place. I really just thinking yesterday how important this Chelsea United game is going to be. I think it's 2nd week of March, maybe something like that. That is going to be a cracker.
Well, that's definitely concerning as a Chelsea fan because they're 2 points back, and when I think of teams that are the least likely to drop points between now and the end of the season, I honestly think that it's Liverpool and it's Manchester United. So that does leave me really concerned because I just don't see with the way that United's been playing. I don't see where, like you said, that train started rolling. I don't really see where it's going to stop.
Yeah. Well, that was my point I was going to make was if this was a Jose Mourinho team and they go down 2-0 against Burnley, I'm not entirely sure if they're coming back from that.
Yeah.
And then it's such a positive sign for me that Solskjaer has got these guys buying in wholesale. You need to be playing full 90, hard as you can go, to not look like pieces of shit.
Right.
I don't know. I just really like it. I really like what he's done in his 10 games so far.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's been 10 games. 4 goals conceded, 23 scored, something stupid like that. It's really only 2 goals per game, but
there's literally nothing else he could have done to do any better than he has. So
yeah. Chelsea, we kind of already touched on this. They got the dick smacked by Bournemouth. They got mushroom stamped. There's no other way to describe that. But for every great depth, there's a high. And Chelsea definitely hit that high this weekend, 4-0, 5-0 against Huddersfield. But like you said, very poor Huddersfield side. But I kind of think that's what you want for a player like Gonzalo Higuain. You don't want to throw him in and have his first game be against Liverpool.
No.
Because then every fan is going to be like, oh, well, we got the guy from Juve coming in. He's going to score as a bag full. But you use him into a game, like a Bournemouth game or a Huddersfield game. That kind of gives him the chance to set in, get a feeling for it. Do you think Chelsea, what do you think? Where do you think going forward now with Gonzalo? What are the possibilities?
I think that Chelsea's in a much better position to compete for that top 4 spot. I say compete, and we're in there right now, but like I said, the game against Huddersfield was nice. but it was, like you said, it was against a really, really, really poor Premier League team. Probably one of the worst Premier League teams like that I've personally seen in the past couple seasons.
I think
So,
they beat United this year, so I can't say anything.
so my thing is they've put themselves in a position where they can compete for that fourth spot, but I still think that United, even with the 2-point deficit, I still think
Gonna
they have
catch up.
far more momentum. Yeah, absolutely. It's literally like I would feel a little bit easier about it if it were like a 3-point cushion, because then we could mess around with some goal differential. Chelsea like has let in like I think the third fewest goals of any Premier League team this
United's
season.
let in, I think, the most.
Yeah, so it's that literally that 1 point that makes me even more nervous. So if I had to make a prediction right now, I would honestly put United in that slot.
Do you think, unbiased, looking at both squads, which one's the better team? Do you think United has the better talent,
I think
Chelsea?
United
See, I would
has more talent and more depth.
I would venture to say United has more talent, has more depth, but I would say Chelsea has the bigger stars. Higuain, Hazard, N'Golo Kante, David Luiz. Those are just I would say characters, but like we don't have a David Luiz type center back, someone
Right.
who like leads from. I mean, David Luiz, like you can say he's washed, you can say he's old, not what he used to be, but like he organizes that Chelsea
you
defense.
don't have anybody
and
screaming
we
their
do not
head
have
off.
anybody doing that. We don't really have an N'Golo Kante, someone who is just so
You just sold him to China.
Yeah, that's true. we do have the Serbian killer Nemanja Matic, so it's like he is basically just a Kmart N'Golo. He's like the MySpace N'Golo Kante's Facebook. And then like we don't have really a winger of Eden Hazard's ability and skill. I think we're slowly getting that with Anthony Martial. I think he's starting to realize I don't have a future as a striker. I think Marcus Rashford is going to take that over.
Yeah.
Side question, where do you see Marcus Rashford in 5 years?
Oh man, it's really funny that you asked me that. I'm gonna be that annoying asshole that like answers that with another question, but like, how happy would it make you if Marcus Rashford plays so well over the next couple years that it's literally like, do we play Harry Kane or Marcus Rashford in the Euros?
That'd be sick, dude. That'd be so sick.
I mean, when you think about like,
I've seen a lot of people say that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe Harry Kane in 4 years should not be our option if Marcus Rashford's going to be this good, because Harry Kane's slow. And I wouldn't say he's slow, but like Marcus Rashford can just
He's
do
very
so much. His finesse is insane.
and he's just got like that guile about him. Like Harry Kane is very.
You know what
like,
he's going to do.
Yeah,
You know how Harry Kane's going to
He's
score
very like
goals.
plain Jane,
Yes.
and that's not a bad thing. Like he's probably the best in the world at doing what he does.
He's just so okay at so many things. He's really good.
Right.
And Marcus, like I would say, Marcus Rashford does not have Harry Kane's physicality, does not have his level of like hold up play, and
I don't think he's as good of a finisher either. I just think that he offers you so much
speed.
more. Like,
You can see him go out to the wing, and he's comfortable there. I think Marcus Rashford will be one of the best players England's seen, at least in this millennium.
right.
But you know, we're talking about Harry Kane. He's still out. Dele Alli's still out. Son just got back from, I guess, a pretty underwhelming Asia Cup because
Yeah.
Qatar won.
And they won the final. Like, who's fixing these games for real though?
Yeah, but just watching the Spurs games, I mean, Son has scored 2 winners in the last 3 games for them.
He's so important.
Yeah, as we can say, he's just so important to them. I honestly cannot think of any player in the Prem right now who is as important to their team. Maybe David De Gea. David De Gea might be just like on it. Might have him just edged. But Son, like, as an outfield player, I can't think of anyone else. Every other team, like, you take away their best player, like, they don't really have anyone to cover for that a lot of times. Like, I mean, maybe unless you're Liverpool or City, but
Right.
Tottenham lose their 2 biggest players, and don't worry, we got Son.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. I don't know, dude. I just like watching him play. Do you think he's the most underrated right now? Not underrated, but like not enough credit given to.
Yeah. I would agree. I think like the secret's like very much out of the bag at this point. I think he like solidified himself as Tottenham's second best attacking player last season. But yeah, absolutely. I don't think he gets the same praise as even when you think of, not now at City, but even when you think of like what Riyad Mahrez was doing when he was at Leicester, like I think Son is very much on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. He's dragging them across the line.
And I just don't think he gets that same recognition.
So Greg Berhalter had his camp, talked about it a few weeks ago. Now that camp's over, 2 games, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. I don't really want to talk about the players because I don't feel like we'll see a lot of these players at the Gold Cup.
Right.
Like you said earlier, maybe we'll see Michael Bradley there.
Mm-hmm.
But really, a lot of these players, this was just kind of to see for Greg Berhalter to test his systems and how he wants to play. So my question for you is, do you like his formations? Do you like the tactics? Do you think going forward when we get, the Weston McKennies and the Pulisic's and the Josh Sargents in there, do you think this will be a good team?
Yeah. I liked what I saw from the games that I watched. And I think specifically tactically, I like the willingness to progress the ball forward. And I also like the fact that we didn't have players. We saw it under Bruce Arena, but it was a huge thing under Jurgen Klinsmann. Players receiving the ball, and if they weren't under pressure, then literally putting their foot on the ball and looking for the pass. Like with Greg Berhalter, it was very much get the pass, settle, and move the ball. There wasn't a lot of thinking to it, which I very much think was something that obviously was planned. And I think formation-wise, I was a little bit more surprised than tactic-wise. Formation-wise, we played a front 3, and you didn't see Columbus play a lot of that. When he led Columbus, he very much played like a 4-2-3-1. And he still had wide players, but you had players like Jeremy Ebobisse, for instance, out on the wing, and he was using players really well to stretch the defense, which wasn't something you saw a lot of at Columbus. You saw a lot of fast-paced passes through the middle. So tactically, that was a little interesting, but I think that Greg Berhalter is a coach that is going to maximize what he has instead of trying to take his system and fit players into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's married to a front 3 by any means. He also didn't play with a number 10, which is very uncharacteristic. And part of that is because he's had Federico Higuain, one of the best 10s in the MLS to use. But it was interesting to see what kind of formation he was running. But tactically, I liked what I saw. The first half of the Costa Rica game was really, really slow. But I think the response in the second half, we scored 2 goals, what I mean? So that went well. So yeah, I liked the sense of urgency that our players had on the ball. Short answer.
Yeah.
TLDR.
I guess we'll plow on through the last little bit, the MLS previews. This week from the East, we got the Revs and New York City FC.
Yeah.
You want to take it away?
So we have Brad Friedel entering into his second full season as coach in New England. And they had a really, really, really underwhelming season last year.
They got beat by Louisville City.
Yeah, the Revs have never been a super flashy team. They've never been a incredibly interesting team to watch. But they were really underwhelming, and I was looking just at the moves they've made this offseason. I can't think of a team that's made more moves this offseason than the Revs. They've had 11 players departing, and it's not just fringe players, youth players. It's big major points of their team. You got Christian Nemeth, you got Claude Dielna, you got Christian Pelena, Chris Tierney, Kellen Rowe. These are players that were playing big minutes for them last year that are leaving. And then you have 15 arrivals. And some of them are decent. Some of them are from bigger clubs than others. You have Guillermo Hauche, who came from Racing Club in Argentina. Interesting to see just because of the
influx of South Americans to the MLS is kind of
and I'm interested to see what the standard he'll be able to bring. And then you have Carlos Gil, who has La Liga experience. He came over from Deportivo La Coruña, so they're in the second tier right now, but he's played in La Liga.
2 years
so
ago,
so they brought in a player with La Liga pedigree, and then they brought in older but like trusted MLS players like Edgar Castillo, who's been like a really solid MLS defender for his whole career. So I really think the story of New England, I don't necessarily want to put my hat on them being a playoff team by any means, just because of the nature of how they played last year. But I think that the overhaul, the pressure is definitely going to be on Brad Friedel now, with all the moves that he made.
Absolutely.
Moving on to New York City FC, a little more interesting news. Obviously, we had Patrick Vieira leave towards the beginning of last season. So, Dominic Torrent will be in his first full season in charge. And I think the pressure is going to be on him, not just because of the team that he's coaching, like all eyes are going to be on the New York teams very often, but I also think that just like the success that Patrick Vieira had, not only in the MLS, but like the success he's having now at Nice, they're going to see another foreign manager coming in, affiliated with City Football Group, and they're just going to expect him to be able to kind of like hit the ground running. So the pressure is going to be on him more than a lot of MLS coaches, just because of the nature of where he's coaching. But he has big shoes to fill in that sense. And I mean, they brought in a 23-year-old Romanian. I'm gonna butcher this name, Alexandru Mitrita. And I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the name of the club he came from.
Romania.
It's a Romanian club team. He's been capped like 6 or 7 times for the Romanian national team. And from what I've read about, the little that I have read about him was there were interests from I saw interest from like Bundesliga clubs, Eredivisie clubs, but his main thing was wanting to come in and start in the first team like immediately,
I understand that.
And really what he ended up doing was choosing the MLS for that reason over, he didn't want to go in and play for clubs like U23 team. Or he didn't want to play for their youth club. So it'll be interesting. He has huge shoes to fill, like David Villa, linking back up with his Spanish teammate, Andres Iniesta, Vissel Kobe. So big shoes to fill.
Also super weird that Vissel Kobe can afford to bring in players like that.
I know.
Another story. I think Fernando Torres plays there too.
Yeah.
Weird, but
J-League is like...
Gotta get into J-League next year. Really gotta get into J-League.
Over in the West, we got Portland. We got Giovanni Savarese. He's had like mixed success really since he took over for Caleb Porter. I think he'll be in his 3rd or 4th season now. And they'll make the playoffs, make a run. Next season they won't come close to the playoffs. So I think the big problem there is they still have players like Diego Valeri and Diego Chara. Like they still have good core players, but you also have players like Darlington Nagbe, Fernando Adi that are leaving and getting shipped off, and you're not seeing players of that quality being brought back in.
Who's gonna replace them?
Right, those are two of the MLS's best players right now, arguably. So you gotta wonder how long you're going to be able to rest on a 34-year-old Diego Valeri or a 31-year-old Diego Chara without bringing in some like fresh blood. So interesting to see. I don't think they made too many moves in the off season.
Well, there's still time too.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time too.
I'm sure they'll.
But right now, it's like I said, with the mixed consistency that you've seen from Giovanni Savarese since he's taken the job, I honestly don't know where to place this team. Like whether you should expect to see them towards the top of the West or if it's going to be another underwhelming season. So we'll just have to see on that one. And then we'll finish off in the West with Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake had a pretty underwhelming first half of the season last year, and then really just figured out a way to put some wins together towards the end. And Mike Pecky, like honestly, I think they won 2 playoff games last year. I know for sure they beat DC United.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, the problem with that I think is that when that little run they were able to put together the last month and a half, 2 months of the season going into playoffs, I think that was very much that team at their ceiling. And you just wonder what they're going to be able to bring in that's going to be able to push them to that next level. You just haven't seen them make tons of moves in the past couple of years, honestly. Like they brought back Brooks Lennon, the American teenager from Liverpool, who was never going to even get
see time. I didn't even know that Liverpool had an American. You told me that recently.
Yeah, so you've seen him be brought back, but you still have players like João Plata being, and João Plata's not old. I think he's in his late 20s, but like he's been there for like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen them be willing to kind of like freshen up and recharge in that sense. I mean, they're still playing players like Kyle Beckerman and Nick Raimondo. Like both of those
Dreadhead.
players are like 35, 36 years old.
It's nuts.
So yeah, they do have some, like I said, aforementioned Brooks Lennon. He's going to be interesting to watch just to see what he'll be able to develop too. I think people have definitely catered their expectations since his move back to MLS. But he'll be interesting to watch moving forward. And they also have a really young center back named Justin Glad, who's been like a starter at the U.S. youth national team level for a while now. And it was really bizarre because he pretty much had a nailed-on starting spot for like 85% of last season. No major injuries occurred, no transfers occurred. He just randomly got benched for the last like 4 games of the regular season and then didn't see the field at all during the playoffs.
Wonder if it's a behind the scenes issue.
So yeah, so I really want to see him reclaim that starting spot because like U.S. wise, he could be a factor moving forward when you're looking way down the line. So yeah, those would be my 2 people to watch. But I don't necessarily think that I would hang my hat on them being in the playoffs either, just by the nature of how little movement they've made and the fact that I think that their very best last year got them where they were.
Well, I don't have anything else to add to that. Is that it for you?
That's pretty much it.
Well, I'm Fuller.
I'm Jonah.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out Instagram, Twitter, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week.